Hey everyone, my name's Lily. I'm the book blogger behind Utopia State of Mind, and I'm bringing you my second part of 12 Friends, 12 Books book reviews. So today I am talking about two books. I'm talking about The Rape of Nanking, and I'm talking about A Memory Called Empire. So I read both of these books in February basically, and I just wanted to do kind of like mini reviews and updates on the 12 Friends, 12 Books project in general. So I'm gonna start off with The Rape of Nanking because that one okay, before I talk about that, please, if you're going to read it, make sure that you read the trigger warnings, because ages ago, after Lily had first mentioned this book, I'll leave all Lily's information below, I had read the trigger warnings and I was like, okay, I'm interested in reading this. It's a nonfiction, so I'm not going to pick it up right now, and it's kind of intense. I totally, when I was thinking about reading this again in February, which I did, forgot to re-look at the trigger warnings, and I saw it on audiobook and I was like, oh, audio might be nice. Audio was intense. Like, the trigger warnings for this book, huge amount of trigger warnings, you know. I put them in my review, which I'll link below, but like a lot of different trigger warnings for this book. And so it was just really intense listening to it, like in your ears, essentially. I don't know if there are photos in the actual book. I think I want to get a copy out from my library and just check if there were. I bet there were photos, honestly. But what was so remarkable or so gripping to me about The Rape of Nanking is how much it reminds me of the fact that history is so malleable, and that when we don't record history or when we don't tell the stories of history, the memories and all of the events fade away and they disappear. And we have this idea sometimes when we're living it that like everyone will remember this. No one will let it forget. Like, it will be around forever, and that's honestly just not the case. There are times when in The Rape of Nanking where greed and politics and like corruption and stuff, when they kind of just erase history entirely, and we're at a real danger of forgetting that, and we're at a real danger of letting the past repeat and also letting the past be forgotten. So I guess The Rape of Nanking was intense, but also just a reminder that, you know, the things that happen, we have a duty to make sure that they're remembered. And, you know, now with social media and everything about the internet not being, you know, not really letting things disappear, we have this idea, I think, that even more so now, that just wouldn't be possible. But considering about how many human rights violations we don't really hear about, or you might not hear about, I certainly don't hear about in my daily life, with this era, I guess, of more documentation, it just reminds me that just because even if there are documents or even if there are accounts, that doesn't necessarily mean that history, which is often written by the victors, will remember it. And so we have a duty, if we're not seeing that, to keep those stories alive, to keep the past alive as well. And so that was kind of my main takeaway from The Rape of Nanking. It was really, really great. It was a 5-star read for me. I don't read a lot of nonfictions, so I was just blown away with how fabulous it was. And Iris Chang also talks about the situation before, like all of these different factors that come together to kind of make this happen, and all the aftermath and all these people that are involved. And it was just such a great portrayal on kind of on all fronts of this. I really, really loved it. But it was just really intense, so definitely please educate yourself before you go into it. But if you can handle it, please definitely do read it. I don't know if I'd recommend the audio. The audiobook reader was fantastic, okay? But I just think that with the intense kind of subject matter, if I were going to recommend it, I would just probably recommend reading it. That means you can easily digest it and like come back to it. I had to take a few days break in between listening to it to kind of bring myself back to a mental headspace where I was ready. And so yeah, I just wanted to talk about that one. And then the second one is A Memory Called Empire. Kate from Your Tita Kate recommended A Memory Called Empire, and I'm so glad Kate did, because A Memory Called Empire is one of those books where I felt like I didn't have enough brain cells. There's just so much political manipulation and betrayal and like treason and just so much different stuff going on. But what I really loved about A Memory Called Empire was not only how fantastic the characters were, but also how interesting the world building was. So in A Memory Called Empire, there are these things called imago. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Imago technology, basically. And it's kind of this idea that you could almost create an imprint of your consciousness and then kind of carry that on to another person, and then that would kind of be like written in my brain. So essentially there'd be like me and there'd be this other person in my brain, kind of. And it was really interesting to look at how that technology is and think about like these conflicts of civilization and technology and war and like boundaries, and think about how they are so nebulous and how they are so resistant to change but also adaptable to change. And there are just so much treasony, politic, like just so much manipulation in A Memory Called Empire. I'm so excited for A Desolation Called Peace. I think that's the second one. Because I think A Memory Called Empire definitely kind of put us into this conflict where Mahit, don't know if I'm saying the main character's name right, has to really figure out how she wants to be and like who she wants to be, because right, there are all these kind of, not voices in her head, but there are all these, you know, forces outside of herself that are trying to influence her, and there are also these forces inside her head trying to influence her. And so she has to figure out what kind of ambassador she'll be, like what she will stand up for herself. And I think that A Memory Called Empire really perfectly sets up this sequel, which I know nothing about, but a sequel to really discuss their conflict in the broader scheme of the universe, and also what it means for her going forward, essentially. So I'm just so excited for the second one, and I'm so glad because I needed to read this anyway, because I hope, fingers crossed, I'm gonna get an arc of A Desolation Called Peace. So I hope that I will, and then I'm totally now ready to read it. But yeah, I just really loved kind of watching all of these different things unfold, and I'm so excited for the sequel. And there were some parts in the first one, character-wise, where I read them and I was just so sad. I didn't shed a tear, but I was just so sad. And I thought it was a really interesting way that the author looks at the different cultural and political systems in both of them, and kind of how we can use and exploit and work with and ally and like all of these different things with another culture, essentially. Those were my kind of updates on the 12 Friends, 12 Books. I've now read, let me go to my list, in this gigantic book in front of me, which holds all the notes to my entire life, essentially. Okay, here it is. I have read now, update-wise, I've read The Rape of Nanking, A Memory Called Empire, It Sounded Better in My Head, and The Pursuit. So I've read 4 out of 12. So in case you need a refresher, the ones that I have still left are The Company, The Wicker King, To Be Taught if Fortunate, I was like, what? To Be Taught if Fortunate, A Big Ship at the End of the Universe, Gabby, A Girl in Pieces, Song of the Abyss, and Seance Tea Party. I ordered Seance Tea Party because I wanted to read it as a graphic novel, kind of like in person. But very, very excited. I hope my next 2 books, fingers crossed, there are lots of fingers crossed in this video. The next 2 books on the list that I'm going to read next are going to be To Be Taught if Fortunate and Lilani of the Distant Sea. And ones that I'm already planning for the next one, which is just like, you're making a lot of plans, Lily. I don't know if you're ready for them, but the next ones that I'm thinking about are The Wicker King and either Gabby, A Girl in Pieces, or A Big Ship at the End of the Universe. I wish that I could find A Big Ship at the End of the Universe in audiobook, because I feel like sometimes that makes these sci-fi space adventures a little bit more fun for me to read. I mean, I really love them in general, but I mean a little bit more kind of cinematic for me to read. But also whatever Seance Tea Party gets you, I'll probably just read that because I love the idea of a graphic novel. I haven't read one of those in forever. So that's just also a brief update on my 12 Friends, 12 Books. I also did want to quickly mention that I got the idea for the 12 Friends, 12 Books project from May blogs at Forever and Everly. I'll leave May's links below. May is one of my favorite bloggers. May does so many different things like the Book Blogger Awards, but also their content is just fantastic and I love it so much. And I realized that I forgot to mention it in the announcement video, and I don't think I mentioned it also in part 1. so I'm super, super sorry. I did put those in like the description boxes, but just in case you're not reading the description boxes, I wanted to make sure it's in the video format. So here we go, in the video format. Yeah, I had a really great time filming this. I'm having such a fun time with the project, and if you have any suggestions about people I should ask, or even also what your book would be, please let me know. And also if you have read either of these books and want to chat about it, I am all ears. So have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!